Let's also bring into the room Maggie Pree, who is an expert on the idea of entrepreneurship. Has anyone heard of this term before? Wow, great, the idea is spreading. I remember when I first encountered the word, I said, that's what I am. That's what I am. And so thank you, Maggie, for bringing that idea. She's an expert on leading transformational change from deep inside the bellies of our incumbent institutions, influential corporations, governments, and NGOs. And she spent over a decade harnessing the innovation potential of business to address issues ranging from climate change to healthcare, and she co-founded the global network, the League of Entrepreneurs, which she ran for years in the United Kingdom, but now she has a new home in Portland! Yay! So Maggie's presentation today is just a brief introduction to that concept of entrepreneurship, and one that we want to unpack more and more throughout the day. And for some of you, you're registered as part of a team. You'll be in a workshop next week. So a big thanks to Maggie Pree. Please give her a round of applause.
I'm actually originally from Portland, so I don't have the accent, but I do drink a lot of tea now. And actually, I've known Alexa for almost 15 years now, and I can tell you she is just one of these people that does, seeks out the edges of the system. She's a real adventurer. I, on the other hand, tend to spend my time in places that look like this. So I don't raise your hand if this looks more familiar than, yeah. And I guess when we think about the topics today, this isn't the first kind of image that comes to mind when we think of disruptive innovation and impact. We tend to think of, the cover of Wired magazine, or, these activists on the top of a mountain or the side of a building. But I am here today to talk about another type of misfit. Somebody, and an incredibly important type. We're here talking today about systems change and how we really move the needle. And research that Alexa and I did back in 2007, before she went off to work with drug lords, was looking at I know, she left me behind. I didn't get to go on this. I wasn't on the back of the motorcycle. But we were looking for the misfits inside our incumbent institutions, right? So we have this hypothesis that, to create the new economy, to create this new world that we aspire to be in, we actually have to hack our existing institutions. Because if you think where the decision-making happens, where the power, more traditional form of power, where the assets are, the human capital, is in our existing companies, businesses, and governments. And so we were really interested in who are the misfits there, and how can we help them? So that led us to uncover this, protagonist called the social entrepreneur. So I saw some hands go up that folks have heard this term. We still have work to do on making this kind of part of the vernacular. People ask me often, what does success look like for you for this entrepreneurship movement? And I say, when I type, entrepreneur in Word and it doesn't autocorrect, it's just like, we're still not at this place where people know this terminology. So it's great that I could be here today sharing with you this definition, and I'd encourage you, if you identify or believe in the concept, please do share it. So, very specifically, what is an entrepreneur? We use social sometimes to talk about the fact that we're focused on impact besides just, innovating, the next shampoo. So somebody who seeks to identify and exploit, I've got it here, easier to read, entrepreneurial opportunities that address societal challenges from within established organizations, or kind of shorthand, it's a social entrepreneur on the inside. And I love this one time somebody described an entrepreneur to me as somebody that works from their organization rather than for, right? I have a bigger issue that I'm working towards, whether that's equality, gender equality or climate change, and this is the platform I'm using to do it. And there's a question like, well, why is this important and why now? And I think what I've observed is that organizations have made commitments. So we're seeing at a global level, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, you have city level commitments to reduction of waste or climate emergencies that we've declared, and companies getting on board with these. We're eradicating homelessness. The big question is, how are we going to do it, right? So we have this North Star, we want to go here, but how are we going to do it? And our answer is entrepreneurs have to be a key part of that solution mix. And what's exciting is we're seeing a movement growing. So, as mentioned, I co-founded with Alexa in 2012 an organization called the League of Entrepreneurs. And it was really because we were seeing that these folks were taking on these powerfully entrenched forces and systems, often on their own or in small teams, kind of sitting in the basement of these like big bureaucratic institutions, feeling incredibly isolated and alone. And we thought, well, gosh, if they're going to be successful, we need to help them. So how can we start finding them? How can we start connecting? How can we make sure that you've got the tools and resources as an entrepreneur to drive change and have the impact that you want to have? So we set up the League of Entrepreneurs in 2012. We're now in 17 countries. I have moved back to the US to grow it here. So we just had a kind of very informal kickstart this week at League in Portland. So any entrepreneurs, please come see me later and we'll get you involved in the local group here. But it's so interesting that this is a concept that resonates. Like we have a meeting going on in a few months in South Korea. We have a very strong Latin American group. Last night we had the folks taking off in the Netherlands. So it's just this idea of like, how do I make change from where I am? I think so many people, we're commuting to work and we see the tents, in Portland, or we read about climate change, or we see what's happening in Washington, and sometimes it's easy to feel really powerless and not feel like I have a sense of agency to do anything about it. And I think what's resonating for people is actually I do have agency. I'm good at marketing and branding. Well, how do I start talking about the things I care about and do it in a way that benefits both my organization and wider society? So that idea is cutting through. So there's good news, even though Washington is a bit behind. And I just want to share a couple examples. I don't have a lot of time. I'm happy to talk in the break or over lunch. But a few examples of entrepreneurs, because I think their stories really describe it much better than I can. And Sam McCracken, does anyone know Sam at Nike? No? So Sam is one of the first entrepreneurs I ever met, really inspiration for the work that I do. He's a Native American of the Sioux tribe from Montana. And he started his entrepreneurial journey at Nike, working in a warehouse in Virgin, Oregon. So he didn't have a fancy title, he didn't have an MBA, but there was a need in his community. And in particular, his Sioux tribe was dealing with epidemic levels of obesity, and as a result, type 2 diabetes. And very tragically, his mother died from complications of type 2 diabetes, I think in about 2001. And so it sets Sam off on his quest, right? Like, I'm sitting here inside Nike, this incredibly powerful sports brand, focused on the athlete, and my community is dying from lack of physical activity, from obesity. What can I do, sitting inside this institution, working from this institution, to have an impact on the issue that is impacting me and the people that I care about? So he just took the first step, and I think this is something really to keep in mind as an entrepreneur, is you don't have to, we heard about these systems and changing the system, and sometimes it can feel so overwhelming, but sometimes you just need to take a step and start and try and do something. And so for Sam, it was talking to the tribal chiefs and organizing these fun runs and walks, and then Nike would donate free products as an incentive to take part. So it's a very simple thing that he did to start out. But then he started sharing about his work with the community inside Nike. He talked to designers, like entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs will talk to anyone that will listen about their ideas. So Sam would go around, and he said he had about 50 different PowerPoints, depending on what people cared about. And he started talking to some footwear designers that said, hey, wait a minute, we want to help you design a product, because the way to really influence at Nike is if you have a shoe or a product. So they basically designed a whole line of products embedding Native American principles of sustainability, so the 7 generations ahead, 7 generations behind. They called it N7, and the proceeds from this product line go to support physical activity for Native American and Aboriginal youth. And now Sam is the general manager of that N7 brand at Nike. So that's, I think, a fantastic example where he didn't have traditional power inside the organization, but he was an entrepreneur within and created this opportunity. I want to talk about Miriam just in the interest of time, but I would encourage you to look up Miriam Sidibe. She's on our website and has a wonderful TED Talk. about her work around hand washing with soap within Unilever. But I'll leave with just another example, another Miriam here, Miriam Turner, who is working at Interface, which is a global carpet company. When somebody approached her and said, did you know that 10% of marine debris annually comes from fishing nets? So what happens is fishermen don't need the net anymore, maybe it's got a hole in it or what have you, and they discard it, and it's left in the sea, and what it does, they call them ghost nets, because they continue to catch fish, sitting in these, in the oceans. And the question this person posed to us was, is there anything that we could do about this plastic waste that's ending up in our oceans? And as a carpet company, they use a lot of kind of plastic and polymer inputs to their products. So she said, wait a minute, maybe there is something we could do. So she had a look at the materials, but what she was asking, which I thought was interesting, is how can we not just solve the environmental issue, but also do it in collaboration with the communities that are most affected by this plastic pollution, which often tends to be in Southeast Asia. So she went to the Philippines and started talking to nonprofits there to see how can we enroll these communities to help us reduce the plastic pollution, but also improve their livelihoods at the same time. So the result was a project called Networks, which basically removes these fishing nets. They use them to create new yarn for new carpet, and they do that in concert with these local communities, providing them with additional sources of income. And what was interesting, though, as well, is they saw this huge brand uplift. So first off, the salespeople were so proud to be able to sell a product that was working with these communities and that was impacting the planet. And so they came with a sense of pride, but they saw a 20% uplift in sales. So it had this business effect, had this business impact. It wasn't just charity or environmental protection. So we have lots more examples on our website, so please go check it out. And we also have resources. So we have a free toolkit. From our global community, we've crowdsourced what do you wish you knew 10 years ago when you started out. This is a book we're going to be publishing this month on Amazon called The Entrepreneur's Guide to Pathfinding. And why pathfinding? Because there's not a clear roadmap. You really do have to kind of feel your way into it. But there's a lot that we can learn from each other about how to navigate the journey. And as part of the book, we also have, and some of you may have seen, one-page map and guide to start plotting your journey. But this is also a wonderful tool, even if you're already far down the road, to kind of reflect on what is my quest? What's the question I'm asking? I really enjoyed that pitch fest today, where it's like, are we asking the right question? Because so much of it is beyond what we can see every day, and it does come down to these mindsets and these more cultural dimensions. So what's the question I'm asking? What's the question I'm trying to address? And really looking at what's motivating me to do that. Entrepreneurship is a long-term game, so you need to really understand the why and where it forces your own journey. So this is a tool we've developed, and we will be doing a workshop on Tuesday next week to go through it. So I know there are some folks that are already signed up for it, but I believe you're going to get a code to be able to join us. So on Tuesday, please do join. We'll take you through what's called the Entrepreneur's Compass, which is just a one-sheet, almost kind of business plan or mapping plan at a glance. And I would just say kind of 3 things to get you started. If you can't join us for the workshop next week, I think the first is to identify your quest, right? What is that question, as I just said? The second is find your supporter, your champion, your fairy godmother. So when we did research, we talked in particular to 30 entrepreneurs at Nike, and almost all of their stories led back to this one senior vice president, this guy Gary D, who would just dole out some money, give somebody a part-time project manager, give them air cover. So, if you work in an institution, there are people that have power in your organization, and to be able to say, oh, Gary D sent me. They'll take your meeting and they might listen to your idea. So find your Gary D, find your fairy godmother. And the final thing is just create an experiment, right? So Sam ran these fun runs and these walks. It doesn't have to be this big systems changing, scaled up, perfect solution. It's just what's that little test you can run, right? Who's that customer you can talk to get more insight? So just start somewhere. So that's what I leave you with. And again, join the League of Entrepreneurs. If you are an entrepreneur, our website is League of Entrepreneurs with an I. Make sure it doesn't get auto-corrected. Leagueoфentrepreneurs.com. So thank you for your time and look forward to meeting you in the hallway.